think of the differences between the college lab. Okay, you're in college or you're in an art institute, and you're in a building that's got really nice equipment, I'm sure, let's hope so, and you are able to get on the equipment. You're there, although with a lot of students, you know, in many cases 40, 50 students, even if it's 10, you know, you got one instructor to 10, okay, and you're right there in the environment. I mean, you're not in the environment, you're in that school environment. And this is where a lot of people, you know, they go to the schools to check out their admissions process, and they get excited because they see a big camera, they see a big board, and they go, wow, this is. What they don't realize is that when they're enrolled in that program, they're there with a bunch of other students, and they're really not getting that much hands-on time when it comes down to it, because there's so many students, and you have one teacher to every 20, 30 students, let's say. But think about the difference with what we're doing. You're in a real film company. Let me say that again. You're in a real film company. You're in a place that's shooting commercials. You're in a place that's shooting for ESPN. You're in a place that's shooting real stuff. And it's a whole different vibe. It's a real production company. You've got deadlines. You've got, we can't screw up today. Let's face it, in college you can screw up. In the real environment you can't. So you're really learning, you know, you're there learning one-on-one by a person who's been doing it for 20, 30 years. You know, it's like I always say to my students, imagine what you're going to learn that's not in the structured curriculum. Imagine what you're going to learn with sitting there one-on-one with a real music producer who can say, hey, let me show you something that took me 20 years to figure out. I'm going to show you this loop, and I'm going to show you something a lot quicker on the Pro Tools here. You know, I mean, think about it. You're learning one-on-one in the real environment with a person who makes a living today doing it. It's a whole different thing. Everything about it. I mean, there's so many more pros than cons against the concept merely because of that. You know, as opposed to sitting in that class lab, and even though that equipment might look great, remember, you went to that school and you were pitched by admissions people, which, let's be clear, are salesmen, okay? But even if you say, well, hey, Jimmy, you're a salesman, what's the difference? The difference is I'm not the one enrolling you in our programs. Think about it. You've got to go to a real recording studio. You got to go to a real film company or a real radio station. You have to sit there and look the chief engineer or the music producer one-on-one. You have to be interviewed. He has to accept you. And yes, you have to accept him, but he's really going to be the one to take you or not. So he's the guy that'll say, yeah, I'll take you in the program if you decide you want to do their program. And that's the thing, you know, what we're merely saying to people is, instead of rushing off and enrolling in these high-priced schools and being sold in a 2-hour admissions thing in the school, doesn't it make sense to go visit a real recording studio, a real film company, a real radio station? Doesn't it make sense to go talk to a real recording engineer? I mean, for that matter, the nice thing about our program is, let's say you go to an interview wherever you live at a recording studio. And let's say you want to check out another studio. We'll get you another interview. So you can check out a couple of other studios to get opinions from real recording engineers, not just about the training, but also about the profession. I mean, you know, I'm a parent. If my son wants to be a recording engineer, I would like him to sit down and talk to a real engineer, a guy who's been doing it 20, 30 years, to find out what's great about it and find out what's not so great about it. How hard is that career to break into? What did he have to do to get where he's at? Let's be clear, an admissions rep at a school is not a real recording engineer or music producer or filmmaker. They're there on commission selling seats.